The Raiders have informed other teams they would consider trading Davante Adams. League sources told Adam Schefter Tuesday. Schefter also saying the veteran wide receiver has both the Jets and the Saints at the top of his list. The common thread there, of course, his two former quarterbacks. Meanwhile, the Cowboys will not have Brandon Cooks this week due to an infection in his leg. That adds to a lengthy list of injuries to key players, including Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Deron Bland. Now, Mike McCarthy was asked about the possibility of bringing in his former receiver yesterday.
Personally, I have tremendous love and respect for Davante. I had a chance to see him out there in Vegas in the preseason, so don't really know exactly what's going on there. But once again, we do feel very confident with our receiver room. I love the guys we have here. Yeah, and Flo is definitely ready. I mean, he's someone that's been competing each week to be up, so he'll definitely have more opportunities. And I think the two Jalen's, this is more opportunities for them, Turpin. So, but yeah, and love our practice squad guys. Yeah, so we'll be in good shape there.
All right, S.A., we saw what happened when Derrick Henry was available. The Cowboys didn't go after him and, ran down their necks. Would it be a mistake for Dallas to not go after Adams, especially considering the Brandon Cooks news?
I personally believe so. I really, really do. Not only because of the Brandon Cooks news, but because let's look at what they have at the receiver spots. You got CeeDee Lamb. He's got 20 receptions. Everybody else on the Dallas Cowboys got 30. Receiving yards, 316. Everybody else got 358. TD catches, he's got 2. Everybody else got a combined total of 3. It's CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott and virtually no one else. You need help. You don't run the football effectively, which means you're going to have to throw it. Even when there was a time when you could run the football effectively, when Pollard was in the backfield for you in the aftermath of Ezekiel Elliott's departure, you still elected to throw the football ad nauseum. You did it with Kellen Moore. You ultimately did it when Mike McCarthy took over in terms of play calling duties and really, really running the offense. So you've been doing that no matter what, which means running the football wasn't a priority. Throwing the football is. Then you go into the offseason and you pay right before the season begins, actually. You pay Dak Prescott $60 million a year. Prior to him, you paid CeeDee Lamb what you paid him. Okay, we know you're going to make Micah Parsons, give him major bag down the road. At some point in time, you got to go out and you got to get some weapons to make your investments look good. Make them look even better. Because if CeeDee Lamb got somebody else that defenses have to key on, that's going to free him up. Davante Adams is the kind of skill player that can get his, no doubt about that. Dak Prescott's certainly going to look good because he's got another elite receiver to throw to. Brandon Cooks ultimately would be back and be in the slot for you. And let's also keep in mind, last point, you didn't go out and get Derrick Henry. You should have went out and got him. You're talking $6 to $8 million max. Yeah, you got $8 million, but you probably could have got him for $6 in a no-state income tax state like Texas, okay? You passed on that, which also could have helped Dak Prescott. Eventually, you're going to have to do something to validate your investment if you're Jerry Jones. I would say even though it's a long shot, you at least have to go for it in this situation.
Stephen, I have missed you so, especially when you make it so easy. It's such an easy target. Because what did we just talk about on Get Up, Daniel? We talked about the Cowboys and what would Davante Adams mean for this team. I ask you, Stephen, adding Davante Adams, what's the point? To what end? What do we think this team will do? Do we think that they are Davante Adams away from winning a Super Bowl? They are not. Let me tell you, my friends, they are not. Also, we did discuss on Get Up, Daniel, that adding another wide receiver doesn't solve your running issues. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able, suddenly, you're going to have Derrick Henry type production because you have another wideout that teams have to key in on. The production might be a bit better, but it won't be so much better that you think, okay, the Cowboys are back. And again, this is a team, Daniel, I do believe you have said before, do they really want to win a Super Bowl? No. Are they all in? So now we just want them to make moves for the sake of making moves because they didn't make moves before? Somebody show me the logic in that.
Well, I feel, first of all, that we're Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh since you keep calling me Daniel. I don't know if it's the...
You know what I was thinking?
I don't know if it's
Kimberly's allowed to call you Daniel and Stephen A. Steven.
Yeah, I don't know
Kimberly,
if it's a term of endearment
I don't have that authority.
It's like when Robert Saleh was like, me and Aaron are fantastic. No, you're not. So that's my in-the-moment thing. Yeah. Of course it would be a mistake to not try and go get Davante Adams. But it's 2024, and it's the year of mistakes for the Dallas Cowboys. That's kind of what this season has been.
Starting with paying Dak?
Well, starting with going back to after the Green Bay debacle and sitting there and thinking everything was okay.
Yeah.
They should have started over at that moment. And then you go back to not fixing their interior defensive line and going with 2 rookies on the offensive line and not trying to bolster that and not adding something better at the running back position and waiting to the very last moments to play both CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. It's a series of mistakes for the Dallas Cowboys. And so, of course,
Just add another mistake?
not pursuing him would be stupid. I don't think he's going to go to Dallas. I don't think he should go to Dallas. I agree with Kimberley that they aren't or Davante away from mattering. They're the 3rd best team in their division. So it would be a mistake to not sit there and go, Hall of Fame worthy receiver. Us not adding him would be a detriment to our football team, no doubt. But everything the Cowboys have done this year has been a mistake. What move have they done has not been one?
Well, just because everything that they've done has been a mistake, and I certainly don't disagree with you there, doesn't mean that they can't go about the business of trying to make amends, particularly when you consider the desperate times that they're living in at this particular moment in time, and I'm going to call it desperate. Here's why. They're dead last in rushing yards, okay? Since week 1 of the National Football League season, the Dallas Cowboys have a grand total of 2 sacks and 5 quarterback hits. That is atrocious. So you can't rely on them defensively. You can't rely on their running game. So how could they possibly be relevant? The only way to be relevant is airing the football out and putting up points that way and hoping that you manage to win because you got a high-powered offense and ultimately you're just trying to outscore. We're going back to the days.
Your word relevant.
You might not remember this, Dio, because you're relatively young. You pride yourself on being relatively young with your crew cut and all of that other stuff. But you might remember this. But if you remember back in the day when Dan Marino was quarterbacking, he had Mark Clayton and Mark Super Duper. He had them brothers, all right? We all knew how lethal they was. Why was it necessary? Because you know what? You didn't have any damn defense whatsoever. Same with Air Coryell with Dan Fouts and Charlie Joyner and Kellen Winslow and those brothers. Why did you need that? Because you didn't have a defense. Now, they wouldn't win championships, but they were in the mix and they put themselves in a position to challenge because you could outscore the opponent. That's what we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys possibly pulling off if they were able to get a Davante Adams to pair with CeeDee Lamb.
We're not playing spades. Like, you keep talking about a possible. Like, that's not the issue here. You talking about their dead last in rushing yards.
I got a possible.
Like,
Kimberly's on her A game today.
Davante doesn't solve the issue that they missed out on Derrick Henry. You're not getting those rushing yards by adding Davante Adams to this mix.
I didn't say you're getting the rushing yards.
No. Steven, you're talking about how they're dead last in rushing yards. You're talking about how they can't run the ball. They can't stop the ball. Sounds
Which
like
is why
the
they need
Cowboys
to throw more.
Wait 1 second, babe. It sounds like they have a lot of issues.
She said,
right? It sounds like they have a lot of issues. Davante Adams, you're gonna line him up in pass pro? You're gonna have him open up holes for the running game? You're gonna have him also catch passes? You're gonna have him stop the run as well? He is one guy, and just because they missed out on and made so many mistakes already does not mean that you just do just throw up something and say, hey, he's one of the best receivers. He has to help us do something, manage to win games.
Well, first of all, one thing. You ain't just throwing up in the air and saying doing something by getting Davante Adams. He's more than just something. Let's get that out the way first. I'm not saying they're going to get him, but I'm saying he's not an up in the air kind of guy. We know what he brings to the table. That's number one. Number two, Kimberley Martin, were you at the did you cover? I'm not sure. Giants, Cowboys. You weren't there. No. You weren't there, if I remember correctly. But I know you saw the game.
Oh, yes.
Question here. How many points did the Dallas Cowboys score that night?
20.
Okay. I'm saying to you, is it wrong for me to say because you can't run the football, because you can't defend against the run, because you can't seem to pressure the quarterback either right now, your defense is not something that can be relied upon heavily? Is it beyond the realm of comprehension that the combination of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Davante Adams can be manufactured into significantly more offense?
I would expect, no, it's not against, doesn't go against the realm of possibility or whatever. I would expect a casual football fan to suggest that. But the fact that you brought up a game against the Giants.
Oh, my.
You're talking about an NFC where you have teams like the Vikings. You have teams like the Packers. You have teams like the 49ers, the Seahawks. And you want to bring up, well, if they had Davante, they would have scored more points against the Giants. Like, I get it. He is, to me, he's top 2 wide receiver in the NFL.
That's not the point I made. That's not the point I made.
I get it. He will help their offense, but again, to what end? Do you think he gets them past the wild card
Couple
round?
of things.
Wait, Stephen A., I just got to say one thing real quick. Let me interrupt 1 second. Remember sometimes you'd be out in L.A. and I'd be like, Stephen A., what did you do last night? Because you were in such a good mood. That's how I feel about Kimberley A. Martin, because she is owning you. And I'm like, Kimberly, what did you do last night?
Steven and Babe in the same segment.
Time out. Be very, very careful about what y'all are saying. I will remind you for the last time, Molly, I was raised by 4 older sisters. Y'all
No, it's
don't
not
wanna
even a
get me-
shot at you.
Hold it. Let me finish. You don't want to get me started. Oh, shots fired. Shot fired. Oh, my God.
Well, it
Friday,
was.
y'all.
It's gotta be the
That's right up my alley. That's all I'm trying to say. That's right up my alley. That's number one.
Stephen A.,
Number
it's the
two.
peanut gallery,
Number two.
like the folks at
Little
home.
Red Riding Hood, go ahead and sip on your latte and let me handle this. Okay? Here's the deal, y'all, all right? Here's the deal. Number 2, I brought up the Giants for a reason because we know how pathetic they are, yet the Cowboys struggled. That was my point. I wasn't trying to make this point like, oh my God, they look good against the Giants, so guess what? You know what? There's hope for them. I'm saying because the Giants are so anemic, because they're so pedestrian, if not worse, looking at how the Dallas Cowboys struggled against them shows how desperate you are for assistance. That's what I'm saying about the Cowboys.
But if you
Desperate
add
times call for
Davante-
desperate measures. You got to try something. You can't stand still and do nothing unless you're willing to say this
Do you
season is a
think
watch.
Davante on the Cowboys gets them past the wild card round, even if they make the playoffs? Do you think Davante gets them past the wild
I think
card?
it's number one. I think it's possible, but that's not my point. But that's not my point. My point is he's not going away. He's not going away, meaning that if you get him, that's something to have for the future, along with CeeDee Lamb and a quarterback that you've invested $240 million into. You can't leave Dak Prescott out there to hang and try. It's making your investment look awful.
All I can think about right now is Kevin Garnett. Anything is possible.